connecting in any way, I feel like, usually leads to these beautiful, tender, intimate moments, and it doesn't even fully have to be sex. It can just squaring off little times for intimacy. I feel like they're rosebuds, and they slowly just continue to bloom bigger and bigger when you start planting them.
Welcome to the Get Your Marriage On podcast. I'm your host, Dan Purcell, a Christian marriage and intimacy expert and coach. I'm on a mission to help couples have the best sex and most emotionally intimate marriages possible. Our episodes cover topics you've always wondered about and are packed with practical advice designed to help you take your marriage to the next level. If you were to ask me what's one recurring theme I've observed about those that enjoyed great sexual relationships in their marriage over the last 200 podcast episodes of Get Your Marriage On, I would have to say it's those that are willing to push themselves a little outside their comfort zone experience the most joy and growth in their relationships. This is consistent with my own experience. My guest today is Kaitlin Hawes. She's a mom and a wife with a great message. You'll get to hear about what inspired her to reconsider her level of enthusiasm for sexual connection in her marriage, and what inspired her to try new things, and how a willingness to be honest and vulnerable with her husband opened up new heights of life experiences for her. You'll also quickly figure out that Kaitlin is quite creative in and out of the bedroom. This episode is on the spicier side. We're going to do a deep dive as we listen to her tips on how to make oral sex great for both men and women, along with other fun adventures to try as a couple. I hope this episode inspires you to get creative in your own way in your bedroom or out of your bedroom. Our Get Your Marriage On team is growing and we are hiring. If you are passionate about strengthening marriages, love the topic of healthy sexual relationships, are good on camera and creating content, you should apply for our brand ambassador position. See the show notes below for the link to apply. We also had a last-minute cancellation for our couples retreat. This couple is disappointed they can no longer attend due to circumstances outside of their control, but they've generously paid their deposit forward to a worthy couple that would like to attend in their place. If you're interested in this discount and believe your marriage can benefit from a weekend with your spouse and learning more about intimacy in your marriage, it's also going to be romantic and fun, please reach out to me by emailing support@getyourmarriageon.com. We'd love to have you and your spouse attend and benefit from this transformative experience. This retreat is March 26th through 30, so as of this recording, it's only 4 weeks away, so you got to act quick. All the retreat details are on our website at getyourmarriageon.com. Kaitlin, welcome to the Get Your Marriage On podcast. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
Really good. I know something about you, and that is that I saw you say you've read 112 books last year. You're a voracious reader. Of all the books you read, what stands out to you?
Oh, I read so many, and I started off with murder mystery in the year, and then I slowly got into dark romance, where I found my favorite book, which was The Ritual by Chantal Tressier. And it's a beautiful dark romance story that just kind of got my head spinning about this couple that really they're passionate about each other, and then they get very intimate, very dirty, and they test each other's boundaries. And it got me thinking about what are my boundaries? And I wanted to ask
Uh-huh.
my husband if he would help explore them with me. So I asked if he would do a more vigorous oral sex, we'll call it. And I went in
Okay.
thinking I'm going to be so good at it because I know my husband, I know my skills, I'm going to blow him away. And it did not go that well. But it kind of got me to the point where I
Uh-huh.
was thinking, okay, I'm going to try again. And I kept going I kept wanting to do it because I was excited about his enthusiasm because he was excited about my enthusiasm. So we just kind of kept building off of each other's enthusiasm because we're 4 years into our marriage. We got 2 kids, we got a mortgage, we hit a little plateau, and this kind of brought us out of that and reignited our excitement for each other. So I decided to
Mm-hmm.
just keep building off of it. And the books that I kept reading by Chantal kept inspiring me to try other things. Like I tried that oral sex, but what about let's try some light bondage? Let's try this. Like they're going outside and doing things. Why don't we go out in the lawn in the middle of May and try something and just kind of find that fun of it? But by reading about it, I got thinking about it and it just kind of embedded itself in my mind.
That's so good. Why is this so important that couples invest in their sexual relationship with enthusiasm, like what you and your husband are doing?
Yeah. Enthusiasm to me is such a big building block about your sex life because you get in and you're comfortable with each other, and that's a beautiful thing, but we end up settling ourselves sexually because we get comfortable. We get used to just doing missionary and just lightly doing things just because we know it pleases each other that we stop thinking about the bigger picture. So going into it with enthusiasm, there's nothing bad that can happen because you're excited to just try it. And even if you do, like I did, you fail at it, then okay, let's change things up and kind of reignite that spark. But nothing is more attractive to me than looking at my husband being happy and like asking to please him, and he knows that I'm excited about it. It's such a good feeling because you're starting off in a happy place that you don't want to just roll over and be like, do you wanna? That doesn't excite anyone, but like getting up in the middle of the night and being like, it's 2 a.m., I'm awake, like, hey, that just takes such a good place in your heart that it's coming from true love, I feel.
Yeah, I like that true love. So what are some of the outcomes in life that you've experienced as you and your husband really invested more into something a little more, I don't know, adventurous or enthusiastic together?
Our communication, just from like we're getting more of our basic needs, not just sexually, but just truly connecting. We've got 2 kids and it's hard and life is stressful, but just being able to also like, we're excited, we're squaring off time. We want more date nights, we want more communication and the confidence. Like, this happened all in February, and then come May, we're signing it for 10Ks. We ran our first half marathon together. We started pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone just because we had a newfound confidence. And my husband looked at me, he's like, I want to start teaching again. I want to inspire other like EMT students and really give back more because he's finding his confidence in his voice and his profession. It's just such a great inspiring field because we go back to the basics. Like, you start off marriage, you're newlyweds, you're excited, there's love in the air, and then the world's open to you. And we kind of forget about that the longer we stay in marriage. Like, we're in 5 years now and we're like, okay, I still love you, but like, what is truly next for us?
Yeah, yeah. So you keep pushing that instead of just settling or plateauing. That's really
Yeah.
good. Really good. Any other stories you want to share about how this newfound communication, newfound connectedness has helped you through something difficult or something where otherwise or your old self kind of wouldn't have handled as well, but now that you're together in this better, you can endure it better
I
or
feel
thrive
like
in that?
not just our stress levels have come down just because not just like if you put aside just like pleasing us, it's just being able to take on more. And like, we're looking at taking this beautiful dry cabin and like it needs a septic, it needs all these things. It's a massive undertaking, but we're going into it kind of looking at it like, okay, we can handle this, we can handle the stress, we can handle all of this because we're finding each other better, communicating and being able to sit down and have the tough conversations. Like, you have money problems, that's hard, but being able to take those money problems, sit down and like look at them clearly because you can communicate eye to eye. I feel like sex is such a big part of that because we did have a long break after we had kids. I had my second daughter and it was hard on me physically. And for 6 months, we weren't having sex. And then we're angry at each other all the time. We have a newborn baby and it just, things pile up very easily when we're not connecting. And we forget that our sexual sides, if we put those in a closet, we can't communicate as well because we're denying part of ourselves.
So you've invested the more part of a year to getting really good at oral sex together as a couple. I want to hear your absolute best tips. Can you give our listeners maybe 4 to 5 of your favorite oral sex tips? And let's do first your tips on like the woman to the man, and then later from the
Yeah,
man to the woman, and then we'll see where we go from there.
yeah. For woman to man, I feel like my biggest tip is saliva. Like, the messier, the better. But I feel like my husband, the best thing he ever said to me was like, I like when you like drool, when you spit and everything. And it got me thinking because that's something he never said to me. We've been together like a decade, we've spent a lot of time together. And then to me, it
Uh
just
huh.
kind of made me realize that like it truly is better for both parties if there is more saliva, there's more spit, more contact of that, just because everything slides easier. And it's not a grind baking thing, but to me it kind of like really got me thinking. I was like, wow, okay, that makes
Uh
sense.
huh.
And then also that communication of his pleasure. And then my second best tip would be the mechanic of like your mouth and your hand moving together, because let's think, most
Uh
of us
huh.
cannot deep throat. We are not porn stars here. We are average people. We need to be able to
Uh-huh.
include everything. So the rhythm to me of realizing that, like, okay, you don't need to actually fully wrap your hand around it, but using two fingers and a thumb just enough with the mouth, you can get that full movement. And that it's great for men because they're fully getting pleasured and it's wonderful, but
Mhm.
also the confidence that you're giving yourself because you're like, I know what I'm doing. I know this is going to feel good. And that kind of excites them as well. That
That's
confidence
good.
is sexy. And that's a huge tip for regardless of the gender, just going and I mean, like, I'm going to do this and I can take a criticism. Like, let's take ourselves down a
Uh-huh.
notch. Like, being
Uh-huh.
criticized
Uh-huh.
isn't a bad thing. And I've gotten plenty from my husband about things because we're trying crazy things. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that feedback is important because maybe he won't like the, maybe he wants the full hand. Okay, let's adjust our expectations. My
Uh-huh.
next
Uh-huh.
best tip is I want to call it throat training also. Like there's a
All
lot of
right.
great tools you can use. They're called Good Head. They're throat numbing sprays. And they're a wonderful product
Uh-huh.
to use if you want to start off getting a little bit more, let's say, vigorous with your partner and you want to do
All
things a
right.
little bit rougher. It kind of helps numb. But the one warning I give about these sprays is you don't want to get too used to them. You want to try them without, try them without, because you don't want to rely on anything to give you good head. You want your
Mhm.
skills. And also, you don't want that barrier that, like, oh, wait, hon, I need to grab that. Like, if you want me now, have your way with me is my biggest like word of advice. So just kind of
Uh-huh.
training ourselves to do things in a different way by using the
Mhm.
spray as a
Mhm.
tool but not the product. If you're going to do that, my best way, and it's very controversial, is if you sit on the corner of your bed and you tilt your head back and you kind of just
Uh-huh.
open things up and you want to make sure your head isn't too far back. You can get a beautiful session through that way, but it's just word for the wise. Start off slow, start off gentle if we're going to try, and then slowly build up your pattern with your confidence. But that has been a game changer doing that just because it's fun for everyone. Let's just say.
Mhm. And so what you're describing is you're kind of laying on the corner of the bed or the edge of the bed with you're laying on your back with kind of your head almost over the edge, and
Yeah,
he's
just
standing by the edge of the bed or near the edge of the bed for that.
yeah, just kind of laying back, but not like you don't want your head fully off the side of the bed so the blood's rushing. You kind of want just that tilted up,
Uh-huh.
kind of 90-degree a little bit, just leaving things
Mhm.
open so you can enter at your will. Mhm.
Very good. Very good. Great. Any other like creative or like fun ways to incorporate more, I don't know, just to kind of make it more lighthearted and fun?
Yeah, my out of the box, very exciting one is taking a fruit roll up and wrapping it around your spouse's penis. And it's not a common thought that a lot of women have, and I totally admit that, but it's fun just
Uh-huh.
because it's taking a very tasty product and adding it to a very intimate area, but it has no side effects. It's like not gonna burn. It's not anything crazy you have to worry about because it's something you can eat, but it makes it sticky in a very salivating way, and it gives you something
Mm-hmm.
to really work at. You're down there for a
Uh-huh.
bit, and it's kind of exciting for the man to receive because it's not just a sucking motion. You have to lick and tease, and it kind of creates an exciting experience and a very tasty one if you are doing it.
Uh-huh.
And my biggest tip is if
Nice.
you're doing it, do not wrap it like a candy cane. Just kind of do a little bit goes a very long way. And then just remember to clean it off before you have any sex. But it's very fun because I like to do it for holidays, birthday kind of thing. Not an everyday thing, but it's kind of a fun once in a while thing as a couple, just because it's fun for me and it's fun for him. But it's not something that's very like you have to pre-plan it for it. You can just buy a giant box and keep it in your pantry.
Nice. Or in your bedroom.
Yes,
That's
yes.
good. Great. All right. What are your best tips then for the other direction? A man performing oral sex on his wife.
Yeah. The biggest thing, if I think about it for me on our oral journey, receiving it is admitting to myself that I feel very vulnerable. And it's probably because of internal, external genitalia. If we get down to it, it's just because, like, how you feel.
Oh yeah.
But working on it to me, the best way I feel confident is kind of relaxing and realizing that, like, this is my husband. He knows me body and soul, and it's okay to open myself up. And once I get through that mental barrier, it was like the sky is purple to me. Like everything is brand new just because I found confident in my body and myself anatomically, just being like, it's okay to let him be intimate. So the biggest thing
Uh-huh.
to me is figuring out to yourself how to feel confident and then embracing it. For some of my friends I've talked about, it's allowing like they ride their husband's face just because they feel more confident being on top, being able to choose like how much weight they press on themselves. And that to me, I think is
Mhm.
empowering as well because it's a lot of men out there who love that, who love it. So it's just great to see them try to take you that confidence and boom it.
Yeah, it gives you a little more control. So if you're not quite confident yet, at least you know how to position your body where you want it to be and so on.
Yes, and that leads beautifully into like my second point is the confidence and control there, but also like figuring out what feels good for you. Being on top is a great way to figure out as a couple like where do you want to go? Where feels good? What position? And then kind of you can take that into beautiful other places and he can be on top. Once you figure out how you like it and what you like, you can build upon it. So for a lot of women, being on top is the best way to figure that out because you can move your pelvis and tilt her up or tilt her down and that gives the control of the pleasure, which a lot of people we need a little bit more help when we're figuring out what we like when we're very early on in our oral pleasure journey.
Great. Any other tips?
My second tip that kind of goes off is not being scared of toys. You can do a lot of oral
Okay.
sex with also a lot of extra, not just hands and fingers, but in external and internal pleasure together is a very delicate thing. So not being scared to add on to that is my biggest thing because it can be hot for everyone figuring out what feels great where. So never being afraid to like
Uh-huh.
add on to it and not just sticking to like the basic, okay, we're going to try this and because a lot of women don't understand what feels good, so being able to add a little extra stuff. And it's just I feel like anatomically as a woman, it's harder when you don't know what you like because we shelve ourselves off, and that's true for men as well. When you're figuring out what you like, you don't always expand upon like, well, this works and this gets me to XYZ. But figuring out as a couple and a person what feels great, we go beyond those doors.
Gotcha. So a lot of it's like giving yourself permission. Like, I
Yes,
am
and
built
that's
for
the biggest
pleasure.
thing.
I want to
Yes.
explore this. I deserve this is my right. This is for me to enjoy. And just
Yes,
going
and
for
there's
that.
nothing wrong with that when we're doing it safely in a good place. And I feel like a lot of that needs to come from that place of love that I want to pleasure you, not because it's a chore or not because, like, okay, you need it and it's Wednesday, but being like, I want to pleasure you because I love you, because you are a great person, you are a great spouse. And for a lot of my friends, as we enter our era of having kids and like changing jobs and everything, reconnecting around intimacy. And the biggest thing I like to tell them is I remind myself often that I love my husband, not just because he's physically appealing but he's a good person, he's kind, and that can often recharge us sexually when we break down our walls and we look at each other from a good place, and then we get excited again because we love this person because 'cause they're a good person and not just because, "Oh, he's beautiful and he's 6 feet tall."
Yeah, yeah. I heard one woman once say like she had hang-ups around his penis. And that's not uncommon for women to kind of be intimidated by it or just be off-putting. And then another woman said, "But it's connected to a really good soul." And
Yes.
that really helped her understand like when we have sex, it's not just about genitals and it's not about appendages and positions and technique. That these are all connected to our soul. Like, who is it that we're being with? And that's who we're making love to. Not we're not making love to a phallus. We're making love to a
And
soul,
that
and we
that's probably
remember
why
that.
some of us do, like, plateau the longer we stay married, is because we changed so much. We have kids, we get mortgages, we like, our waistline goes back, the hairline goes back, and it's like the best marriages are the ones who don't just love each other when they're hot and they're 20. It's when they realize, "Okay, we've built 40 years of marriage and we've had kids and we're great, but, like, your soul's still there and I'm still attracted to you." And often I feel like we
Mm-hmm.
need to remind yourselves because there's a lot of people who I feel like they give up too soon on their sex lives because they look over and they're like, "Ah, his waist." But it's like, okay, that waist built you a house. That waist loves you body and soul. So it's just kind of remembering to not get caught in such a superficial society and remember that like who we are matters. And that's why intimacy connects so much when we break apart those and really connect completely naked and love each other. And that's why we thrive so much, is because we're no longer scared anymore.
That's so good. All right. Let's get some more plateau busting ideas from you, Caitlin. What are some other fun and exciting things you may or may not have, whether you can confirm or deny? Some fun things for our listeners to think about that they may not think about usually.
Yeah. To me, I hate schedules. I don't like Tuesdays at 6 p.m. we're gonna throw down. I love the spontaneity and the I must have you now action. And that's so important
Uh
as a
huh.
newlywed and as couple. You have that, you're excited, you just bought a house, you want to christen every room. Like I want that
Uh huh.
mentality. So I love surprising my husband and just like randomly, okay, I get up because a dog has to go out, and then waking him up with a kiss and a hug and kind of just remembering to have fun with it. And that could be with like, okay, I just bought this new lingerie. Can I model it for you? And sometimes it does come back to like trying something new and, oh, I just saw this one while on Amazon. Like, do you want to try it? And just constantly being open to doing new things as a couple. For us recently,
Mm-hmm.
it was a waterproof blanket.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah, we have one of those. Uh
yes,
huh.
it's such a great like I think it should be on every wedding registry ever, but it's a little hot
Exactly.
button for that. But it was exciting because it was like, okay, it's a waterproof, but let's see what this baby's made of. Like, let's try it out. And it's just like a simple
Let's
thing that
drench
both
it.
yeah, that had us like both excited. And it wasn't even like, oh, what body fluid? It was like we could go from the shower and immediately hop on it. We don't need towels anymore, was the mentality of it. And then it just got us excited to
Ah,
like, let's go take a shower together. And it's just the simple out of the box thinking doesn't always have to be like, okay, like let's go to Canada and like do it on a plane. Like it could just be simple. It's Tuesday night. Have you watched this new show? And then oh, we got distracted.
uh-huh.
Yeah, it's just connecting in any way, I feel like usually leads to these beautiful, tender, intimate moments. And it doesn't even fully have to be sex. It can just squaring off little times for intimacy. I feel like they're rosebuds and they slowly just continue to bloom bigger and bigger when you start planting
Mhm.
them. Beautiful metaphor.
But
Really found myself in
incrementally,
that one.
yeah, I like that. That's a great metaphor about that. But Caitlin, inside of you, you've made a commitment and you've decided ahead of time, I'm going to try to be spontaneous. Like, that's
Yes.
beautiful, right? So that's
Yeah.
what you're doing. You're like, I'm going to choose to try to make these things happen. Where I think
And you
it's
can
so easy, the default would be, I don't think about these things, I don't try for these things, and therefore nothing really happens. You're like planting that seed for the spontaneity to happen.
and just not being scared and closing ourselves off because we've been through times where I've closed myself off and I've seen the repercussions. So just choosing to open yourself up, I feel like it can lead to the possibilities. And then also like initiating your wants and your desires. And I've empowering my husband to tell me like when things are going wrong and he doesn't feel like we're getting that connection. And just opening your eyes up during sex, I feel like is such a huge thing for young couples to not do. Like going into my sexual journey, I was keeping my eyes so closed. I didn't want to look at anything. And then finally realizing, like coming into womanhood in my marriage, being like, no, I want to see my husband. I want to see him body
Mm-hmm.
and soul, and just choosing that. And for a lot of even men and women, we both probably do it, just realizing that why are we shutting our eyes and that stereotypical norm shouldn't happen because we're closing off that connection.
Right. Sometimes we close our eyes because we don't want to be seen,
Yes.
right?
And
I don't want you to see me right here. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's not going to
That's
change
the heart
anything.
of intimacy. Yeah, yeah. I think it's hard. Like, there's an author that I really like. His name is Dr. David Schnarch, and he has a book called Intimacy and Desire, or is it Passionate Marriage? He's written one of those books, and he tells a story of working with his editor trying to find a photo to put on the cover, and he specifically wanted a couple who is kissing with their eyes open. So we're looking through all the stock photography, everything possible, and
Yeah.
not a single couple is kissing with their eyes open. It's like, that's my whole point of the book, is to have
Yeah.
to go into this metaphorically, eyes open sex. And he, anyway, that's such a metaphorically or even figuratively, literally, when you can have your eyes open in that sexual relationship. That's that Shakespeare said the eyes are a window to the soul. You're inviting
Yeah.
someone into your soul with your eyes. So it's good.
And it's one of the last barriers I feel like as a couple that needs to come down. You can be married, you can be into it, you can be in true love, but like until we're truly able to embrace ourselves and embrace our spouse, you're never going to get that beautiful connection because you're not intimacy like prepared. You're not prepared from yourself. And for me, when I finally was able to be like, okay, I want to open my eyes, I want to be confident in embracing myself, it was really hard. So I got beautiful advice from our Instagram reel, as many of us do, of Megan Trainor. She went to her therapist, and her therapist told her to stand in front of a mirror completely naked for 5 minutes every single day and look over your body. And I started doing it, and it felt crazy, and I hated it. I wanted to break the mirror. It's a lot to take in. But finally, like a week, 2 weeks in, I finally was like, okay, I'm okay with myself. I'm beautiful. I was made beautifully. I am beautiful. I've done all these healthy things in my life. I've had kids. I can do this. And then finally, when I was confident, it unleashed some confidence in my husband that like, okay, the shower door is open. I don't care if you see me. I don't need this towel
Uh-huh.
anymore. I'm not going to be shy all the time and choose when you see me. You can see me all the time. And that confidence
Mhm.
was crazy wonderful for him because he was seeing this confidence in me and this true happiness. So he's even happier because I'm no longer like, oh no, I need a cardigan. I'm like, okay, look at me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's great. There's so many people that could use that advice, whether they, stand in front of a mirror.
Yeah.
I've known women that have decided to go get a boudoir photo shoot, for example. And we've had
Yes.
some of those. We've done previous episodes on that. And they're sitting with the photographer at their second appointment where they go through the photos to decide
Yeah.
which ones they're going to keep or whatever. And it's always such a strong emotional experience. They're like, that's me. That's me on that screen. Holy cow, I look so good. And it's
Yeah.
like such a transformative experience for a lot of them. And there's the body aspect, but I think it's a lot deeper than that too. Sometimes, like yourself, like I've run a half marathon. Just the confidence you get from doing hard things
Yeah.
is like now it shows up differently in the bedroom. I am a person capable of doing this and this and this, and eventually I'm a person capable of loving deeper because you have more
Yeah.
courage and confidence to love at a deeper level than you ever have.
Yeah. Embracing ourselves is just it's a big part of that first half of the journey because you're half of the couple. You need to embrace who we are to become a we. And then the confidence of loving my body, I was able to be like, okay, I love when you do this, but I don't really love when you put your fingers inside me like that. And being able to have the confidence to vocalize it and the confidence to receive feedback. And that's a huge one is being able to have your partner tell you, "I love when you do this," but not need to do the compliment sandwich. I don't need you to be like, "I love your hair and your eyes, but I don't love your blowjobs." Like, I want you to look at me and tell me and help
Uh-huh.
me. Help me help you is the biggest tip out
Uh-huh.
there is talking and receiving. I love when you drool like this. Okay. I love drooling. So I'm not going to wipe away my spit anymore and feel self-conscious. It's just talking an open line of communication leads to better because then eventually you're not going to need words. You know that you love when your legs lifted. So he's going to do it for you. And it's just becoming that true intimacy is breaking down that like self-confidence of I'm good at head. Okay, maybe you're not. And that's okay. We need to learn because every person's different. So when we come together as a couple, what maybe your boyfriend liked before your husband is not going to be the same.
Yeah, yeah. I also like that what you're painting here is that in the reality is when couples have good sex, there's a lot of communication going on in
Yeah.
the moment. And we forget that. Anything else you want to say on that?
Oh, some of the best communication, like nonverbal in the bedroom, is like the more silent it is, the bigger problem is. The best sex isn't
Yeah.
silent. It's doesn't even have to be like dirty talk. It's just that uncoupling of yourself and the natural grind of things that you come together and maybe whatever happens and you say and honey dear whatever naturally comes out it just when people are like I had so silence I could hear the L train like open and people get off and come back on like that's a problem to me that we don't think about it's like we shouldn't have to hold back anything and we are unconsciously doing that and I feel like as a woman personally I did that for many years I was not making a single noise because I was like comparing myself to porn and that's not real.
Mm,
That's staged. So just
right.
that
It is not
natural
real at all.
no, the natural moan and groan and grunt and whatever naturally happens and releasing that is insane because the mental's gone.
You mentioned dirty talk. Is that an area where you've kind of grown personally a little more?
It is, and it's an unexpected one because I never in my wildest life would think that I'd like some form of dirty talk just because I read a lot of romance books and the dirty talk was insane. And I was like, that's way
Uh-huh.
too much for me. But I understand like it's an industry, it's like porn, like the dirty talk's not organic. But I won't even call it like half dirty talk. It's like the talk that happens when it's like, oh my God, I love when you like suck me, baby. Like I love those natural words that come out and it's like the yes and like the
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
each other's name or like honey look at me or like grabbing each other's hand. It's the non-verbal things that like build up to the verbal things. It doesn't have to be crazy. And I hate when women are like try too hard with the
Yeah,
dirty
yeah,
talk. It's
it's
just
manufactured. It's too
yeah.
produced. When
Yeah,
you
I just
try to do that, it's inorganic. It
yes,
doesn't
the
work very well.
praises to me, I feel like are always a great point to build off. If you want to build some form of dirty talk, it's like the
Uh-huh.
you're doing great. I love when you do that, or you look so beautiful right now. Just like the praises we give each other because it's coming from a good place. We're receiving that pressure and we love that pressure, but also reminding the other person that like you're seeing them as a whole and also you love what they're
Hmm.
doing. That to me is such a beautiful dirty talk spot just to live in.
That's good. Great. So, Kaitlin, there's nothing wrong with the missionary position. Let's just get that out there. I think if you survey most couples, like 80% of them, that's their favorite way to enjoy each other. There's something nice about that face to face position. But we always want to improve things, right? We don't want to stay in the plateau like what you're talking about. What are any
Yeah.
of your favorite tips to make missionary even more wonderful than it already is?
Yeah, most people know about the pillow rule. The like tilting up a woman's pelvis automatically improves the pleasure for her. So my number one tip
Mm-hmm.
that I my go-to is a pillow or two pillows, or even if you take one pillow up a little higher and then help elevate the back a little bit, it just kind of
Uh-huh.
things don't
Just under her
enter.
hips.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's not like plumbing, like, things don't enter just beautifully in a 90-degree angle, like, a man's penis
Uh-huh.
naturally goes up, so just elevating her hips, it also helps with a little bit softer of a landing, because you when you really get going and you're very vigorous and you're having fun, sometimes you get that little bounce back from the bed where her hips and your hips kinda it hurts a little bit, and as we age, we all need a little bit softer of a landing going on, so the
Right, right.
pillows are
Uh-huh.
great to me, and then if you are a little bit, let's say, flexible or doing some Pilates, maybe, I love
Uh-huh.
taking one leg and if you elevate it onto you, you can do the kind of the natural fold in your arm or the shoulder, just reaching up one leg. You can just get a little bit open of her pelvis and a little bit open of her legs and a very deeper landing. And it also, it's kind of, it's a little bit racy. No matter like I've been doing it for years, but every time I do it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm flexible. I'm
Uh-huh.
doing this. And it's kind of it's exciting for both of us because he's seeing that enjoyment and also my face. And then also he's like, I am doing this with my wife. I'm a man, which is never a bad thing to build up your spouse in any type of way, but also like to masculate them or to make me feel more feminine because I'm a dainty woman. He's lifting my leg. Like there's just an enjoyment to that that is not spoken about enough because we're having fun, but also we're feeling good about ourselves and we're doing dirty things that when the next morning I'm at coffee with my friends and I'm thinking like, I did that with my husband last night.
That's so good. That's great. I think another convenient place for couples to get it on is in the shower. Yet some are hesitant to try because they're like, they really haven't wrapped their mind around how it's going to work out. So let's hear your shower sex tips.
Oh, shower sex is fun because you have that beginning of like you're slowly building up to it. You're both in the shower, and everyone loves taking a shower together just because it's fun. It's soapy. I like to think of it as like there's low expectations. I offer to get in the shower with you. We don't know which way it's gonna go, and it kind of slowly, for a couple, be a good stepping stone. Just slowly reopen up the intimacy. But if you're going to do oral in the shower, it gets complicated because as we think about it, things naturally need to be lubricated and water washes away the lubrication. So the best
Right.
ways that I fiddle around with it because it's something that I don't want to give up on because it's fun, it's warm. I want to keep doing it. So
Uh
we
huh.
keep adjusting and figuring it out. It's just the natural way is just kind of use your body to block the water or turning the shower head for a woman giving a man pleasure, I love to physically have him kind of put these forearms on the wall and make a beautiful teepee over her, almost you want to call it, just
Gotcha.
to kind of
Shield
filter
her
the
from
water.
the shower of the rain. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he
For
kind of
yeah.
takes
Uh
it.
huh.
And then you
Yep.
can get things every sloppy wet and perform. And then for a woman to a man, everyone thinks it's wild, but my husband is 6 feet tall and he could sit on our shower floor. It's a little stand-up shower. He can get down there. So like remember that you can fit on the floor as hard as it may seem, like your dedication matters. And then I just turn the
Yes.
shower head at that point because like there's not much I can block. And just remembering to like have the shower running on you, but not washing over you is the biggest tip for sex wise and oral sex because like we're gonna slip and fall. If we have sex with that
Uh-huh.
shower running on us, you're going to slip and fall. So I like to move things off
Uh-huh.
to the side when we have sex. And then remember, like, be wary of what we're holding our body weight on. My
Mm-hmm.
father-in-law is a plumber, and he had a couple that kept breaking the shower bar because they kept holding weight on it. So he very, very lovingly asked them if he could install a weight-bearing bar for them. So that's something to consider if you are someone that's super into shower sex to add something that's weight-bearing so we don't break things.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And then just remembering to be careful what soaps we use because not everything can go internally, but there are a lot of
Good point.
beautiful oil-based lubes, water-based lubes that we can use in the shower that will stick around. So those are something you can easily get on Amazon because the water's washing over you. So if you are dry, it does not mean you love your spouse anymore. It does not mean you're not aroused as far. It's just there's water running. So we just need to remember that we need to add lubrication to make sure we're not hurting each other.
Yeah, that's great. Great tips. That's so good.
There's been a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, that's good. As we button this up, any advice for couples on how to get more on the same page sexually? I like to use the metaphor of like getting to a good base camp. You're going to hike up the mountain together, but you want to start at a good place where you're both together so you can take this journey together. Anything in the relationship, any way to communicate, any things that you've learned from your past and your experience that can really help couples kind of get more on that same page sexually.
For me, the biggest thing is like stripping it back and getting back to a neutral place where you can sit down and just talk about anything, but not feel like it's coming from a negative place. There's no charge, no one's angry at something. Like you can't go into a topic conversation of intimacy when you're mad because he didn't put away the dishes. Like we need to have a neutral location, and maybe it's a restaurant, maybe it's you go on a hike together. You're just doing something where it's a neutral ground where we can have those conversations and then remembering that the feedback isn't as personal as it feels. That
Mm-hmm.
maybe you're not kissing enough, and it doesn't mean you're being a horrible wife. It just means like he wants more kisses because he's missing that intimacy like direction, and just taking all the feedback. And maybe we walk away afterwards. We have our conversation and we don't speak for an hour or two, and coming back in a loving place and remembering that everything is we're fighting for our relationship, we're fighting for our marriage. And to me, I'm always telling my husband, I want to fight because it means you're still like, you're in this. Like, problem is, we're not caring anymore. And that's where deeper issues lie. So having that intimacy base and realizing that you're both getting on the same page because you want to stay here and you want to be married and you want to do this, that's a beautiful conversation to even start off with and saying, hey, I love you. I want to do this, but I think we could do better because I miss having sex with you and knowing that you enjoy it. So it's just coming at it from a good place. It's very hard. And I'm going to be the first to say that. Like, we had a 6 month bout of
Uh-huh.
no sex. And that conversation, my husband sat me down. He's like, you're a beautiful wife. You're a great mother. You're doing all these great things, but we're not having sex anymore. I cried. And I'm not proud of it. I shouldn't have cried, but it's a knee jerk reaction when we're told negative feedback to be upset about it. Well,
Yeah,
eventually,
yeah.
a week later, I was chatting with my friend and I was like, he said this. Can you believe that? And she's like, he said that because he loves you and he wants to stay with you. You don't need to be upset. You need to remember that he's fighting for you and that it's okay to not be ready right now, but why aren't you ready for intimacy? And just having the internal dialogue with yourself about like the mental check. Where am I at? And how am I processing this?
That is so good. What a good friend you had to help you
Oh
see a
God.
different perspective to all of that. That's
She's
good. We
my
all could use a good friend.
yes, we
Yeah.
definitely I feel like we definitely do on a sexual journey. Like it could even be, a community that I'm big talk, the book talk community. And it's just a bunch of people talking about spicy books, but just having that like community of people who are doing the spicy book things and just remembering that there's other people out there and that we're not alone and that other people are going through with this. And it's just hard because in our marriage, you feel very alone when you're having issues because you're like, oh my God, I'm having troubles in my marriage. Honey, everyone has troubles in their marriage. We're not alone. And just taking that
Right.
negativity of like, you're not alone. It's okay. You just have to dig a little deeper.
That's good. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Where can people go to follow you, learn more about what you do?
Oh, goodness. I am the spicy bluey mom on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. If it's out there, I try to be on there because I want to talk. I want to talk to the world.
Uh-huh. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll notice she's wearing her bluey shirt today.
Oh,
So,
yes.
yep,
Always.
that's your signature piece. That's so good. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Please share it, along with our apps, Intimately Us and Just Between Us, with your married friends. I promise they will thank you for life. If you want a more meaningful, sexual, and intimate connection in your marriage, I invite you to check out my Get Your Marriage On program. Over 100 couples have said this program packs tremendous value and has helped their intimacy grow to the next level. Now, go get your marriage on.